Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Vita. Yesterday we had discussed. Yes, Vijay. Yesterday we had discussed 2019 paper. I'm taking a set 2 of 2019. Okay, let me show you. Two sets. Let me go for this. See this. First question is from biotechnology. Biotechnological techniques can help to diagnose a pathogen much before the symptoms of the disease appear in the patient. Suggest any two such techniques. That day I discussed with you. 4 techniques I discussed. Because earlier we used to do urine analysis and serum analysis. But there was one problem in this detection. What problem we had discussed? Anyone remembers? What is the problem in urine
The
analysis?
detection of diseases is not possible.
Beta, the report is, it takes time to give indications. Supposing there's an infection in a body, the urine analysis will only give the indication that yes, there is an infection, at least when there is a certain time which has passed, 4 days or 5 days. By the time the infection already spreads. So that is very late. So we have two biological techniques which give us immediately a report. What are they? One is PCR and the second is ELISA. Those who were present that day must be surely remembering this. For PCR and ELISA. What is the full form of ELISA?
Enzyme linked immunosorbent assays.
Very good. So these two techniques we had done. Let's see the second question. This is again, we have done this chapter. Mention the form in which inactive protein toxin is produced by Bacillus thuringiensis. How does it get activated in the body? Again, I would say those who are present know the answer. Bt toxin is present in inactive form. Once an insect digests this inactive toxin, it converts into active toxin because of what medium in its gut?
Alkaline.
Yes. So these first two questions, both from here, we have already done this. This we have not done, this we have not done, and this also we have not done. So out of these first 5 questions in section A, 2 questions from biotechnology. Okay, let me have it. Biotechnology techniques which help to diagnose the pattern before the symptoms appear. Normally, serum analysis and urine analysis is possible only after the symptoms come. You go to a doctor, you tell something that this is a problem, then the doctor suggests some tests. That means the tests are done after symptoms appear, but this can be done before symptoms. What are the two techniques?
PCR and ELISA.
Yes. And then we talked about Bt toxin. It is, what is that which makes it, which destroys it? This toxin? What medium?
Alkaline medium.
Yes. Okay. Let's come to this. Move on to section B now. This we have not done. 7th question we have not done. I'll be starting this unit from tomorrow, the 7th one. Let's move on to this. Population density of a fish in a lake. Define population density. There are two parts in this question. Listen carefully. Okay. First is defining it. Number of individuals present per unit area is called population density. So relative density, number of fish caught per trap can give you the population density of a lake. Look at this question. This is a simple numerical which comes in exams. In a pond, there are 100 frogs. 20 more were born in a year. Calculate the birth rate of this population. Let us calculate. What was the original number of frogs, children?
100.
100.
How many new frogs are born?
20.
20.
So the formula is very simple. Okay. Increase upon original or decrease upon original. Supposing they were decreasing, then also the formula would remain the same. Listen carefully. There are two types of questions which come here. One is calculating birth rate and second is birth rate percent. I'll give you 1 minute later to bring a pen or a paper. I'll make you practice more. So the formula for birth rate is new birth upon original. Formula for death rate will be number of deaths upon original. This is how we'll calculate the birth rate. Formula for birth rate, children? Number of birth upon original. And what is the formula for death rate?
Number of deaths upon original.
Yes. Sometimes they may even give you to calculate the birth rate percentage. Then the formula becomes number of birth upon original into 100. And death rate becomes number of death upon original into 100. How many of you have a paper or a pencil or you would like to do it orally? Let's do a question. In a pond, there are 500 frogs. How many frogs?
500.
Okay. Let's have that 50 died in the year. How many have died?
50.
Calculate two things, death rate and death rate percent. Calculate both, death rate and death rate percent.
Ma'am, that rate is 1.1.
Beta, do you agree with the answer? No, I mean, all your friends, do you agree with her answer? Tell me, what is the answer? Speak again once.
0.1.
0.1. Yes, others, you're getting the same answer or you're getting a different answer?
Yes, ma'am. 0.1.
0.1.
10% death rate.
How much?
10%.
10%.
Very good. Let me have another question with you, children. In a pond, there are 1,000 fishes. How many fishes?
1,000.
Okay. 100 were born in 1 year. 100 more fishes born in 1 year. So calculate the birth rate and the birth rate percent.
0.1 and 10%.
0.1 and 10%.
Very good. So what is the formula for calculating the birth rate?
Number of birth upon original.
Number of birth upon original.
Yes. And what is the formula for calculating death rate?
Number of deaths
Number of
per
deaths
original.
upon
Number of
original.
deaths upon original.
Birth rate percent?
Number of births upon original into 100.
200.
Yes. And number of, sorry, death rate percent?
Number of deaths upon original into 100.
Very good. Okay, so this question simply told you to define this population density and then how to calculate the birth rates. Stable human age pyramid, comment on the population growth rate that is depicted by it. Population growth, see beta, it tells you the pattern. This is the stable pyramid. Why is it a stable pyramid? If you see, there is not much difference between all the three categories of the population: pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive. Let's see this. The first and the second slab, there is very little difference. Hardly any difference if you see. The first and the second. Pre-reproductive and reproductive are exactly, the first and the second slab are equal. Second and third are almost equal. Third and fourth also, there is very, very little decrease. So jitna birth hoega, utna death hoega. So such kind of a pyramid is known as it's a stable pyramid. What is it called?
Stable pyramid.
Stable pyramid.
So they told you just to draw a stable pyramid. The difference, whenever you draw, be very careful that this is going, the decline is going to be very less. See this. So the number of births will equal the number of deaths. So automatically what will happen, beta? See, the number of individuals who shift from reproductive to post-reproductive, now they are not going to reproduce. So there will be no increase in population. Is compensated by the number of individuals who move from pre-reproductive to reproductive. That is the reason that such kind of a pyramid remains stable only. Okay. This chapter, yes, look at this question. What is cryopreservation? Mention how it is used in conservation of biodiversity. When I did this question with you, I told you that this question is often repeated. Almost every second year it comes. Yes, what is cryopreservation? We had already done this. Tell me who I remember we had done about this. Yes. What was the meaning? Yes, we can preserve cells, tissues, all these things can be preserved.
In
Okay.
liquid nitrogen, temperature must be 196 degrees Celsius.
Perfect. See, this word mutagen is written wrong. It should be nitrogen. Minus 196 and the medium is liquid nitrogen. It is not mutagen. What is the word over here?
Nitrogen.
What is
Nitrogen.
this? Very good. What is its role in conservation? Just remember two things, the temperature minus 196 and liquid nitrogen. Look here. What is its role in biodiversity? It is an ex-situ method of conservation. I had also discussed about ex-situ. Ex-situ means on the habitat or away from the habitat?
Away from the habitat.
Yes, very good. We make seed banks, we make pollen banks. All these are ex-situ modes of conservation. Or whichever species is threatened, okay, about to become extinct, we take the gametes, we preserve them. And when required, we can use them. See this. How did David Tillman show that stability of a community depends on its species richness? David Tillman's long-term ecosystem experiments using outdoor plots provided the answer. David Tillman did an experiment on outdoor plots. What did he find? He found that plots with more species showed less year-to-year variations in the total biomass. Those plots which had lot of species, there the variation was very less. The reason is they have a balance between each other. Lot of plants, lot of animals, self-reliant kind of structure it is. So there will be hardly any variation in the total biomass. Means the more the diversity, the more the productivity. What is the basic experiment Tillman's conclusion? The more the biodiversity, the more is the productivity. So he showed what? He said that community, how stable a community will be depends on the species richness. Supposing we have 10 plants only. Now we cannot say that this community is stable. Maybe all 10 plants die or 2 dry up, 4 die for some other reason. So if the number of plants is less, if the species is not rich, the species is not considered to be stable. Which species is considered to be stable? The one which is more in number, where we have a species richness. So let us do about Tillman's experiment. He said, if we have more species, then what will happen? Tell me.
More productivity.
More productivity. Very good. So this is whose experiment?
David Tillman.
Yes.
David Tillman.
Which species, according to him, is more stable? The one with a higher number or the one with a lower number?
Higher number.
Higher number.
Yes, the one with the higher number. Okay. So now you see, this is David Tillman's experiment. Let's move on to section C. Kidney transplant. Let's not have this. We've not done this. Principle of vaccination. C. Let's do this. How is a child protected from a disease for which he or she is vaccinated? Okay. We are going to see how a child is protected from a disease when he or she is vaccinated. That means the principle of vaccination. Did we have this question earlier also?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
See, now cryopreservation is being repeated. Vaccination process, we generally have a question. It is the same thing. Principle of vaccination is based on the memory of the immune system. Because during vaccination, what are introduced into the body? Pathogens in the form of antigens, and body produces what against them?
Antibody.
Yes. 2 types of cells we had discussed that day. Tell me, which cells? T cells and?
B cells. B and T cells.
Yes. Very good. This question chapter we have not done. Yes, let's take this. Charles Darwin, during his famous sea voyage around the world in a ship The name of the ship was HMS Beagle. This question is also asked as a 1-marker question, so keep in mind. The name of the ship, HMS Beagle. Name the ship Charles Darwin took a world trip.
HMS Beagle.
Yes. He said that there has been a gradual evolution of life. Gradual evolution. It is not that life has changed all of a sudden. There has been a gradual evolution. What is this theory known as? And the features of the theory. Theory is theory of natural selection, rapid multiplication. The number increases. Supposing there is a species and they are multiplying very quickly. So there will be a struggle for existence because they will fight for food and space. Some of them will undergo some variations which will be inherited. Only those organisms which adopt best will survive. That is what we call a survival of the
Fittest.
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 Yes, and then a new species would be made. Okay, let's do this. Hershey Chase experiment we have not done. This question was there in the previous paper also, if you remember. But I did not discuss because we have not done this question as of now. So I did not take this. This is about blood groups. Let's come to this. DNA is the hereditary material. This question we have not done. We have just done how to make DNA. Yes, here, beta. What is the breeding of crops for enhancing the nutrition value called? Breeding of crops for enhancing the nutrition value is called biofortification. This process is called biofortification. Okay. We had done about some varieties yesterday, which were improved varieties. You remember which were the varieties, the hybrid varieties? How many of you were there who remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, which was the first one?
BT cotton.
Very good. BT cotton. Second was?
Flavor sour tomato.
Very good. Flower sour tomato. And which rice?
Golden rice.
Okay. Look at this question. Restriction endonucleases have played a very important role in our DNA technology. Explain the role of ECOR1 and DNA ligase in the formation of a recombinant DNA. The paper I discussed yesterday, the question was the formation of a recombinant DNA, and we had discussed 3 steps in recombinant DNA. The first step was?
Denaturation.
Very good. Second was?
Annihilation.
Excellent. Third was?
Extension.
Extension. Obviously, only those children who were present yesterday are answering. I can make it out. Fine, Bache. So if you see, we have a one question always from our DNA also, recombinant DNA technology. In that set, we had the technique, and here they've asked you about role of EcoRY. This restriction enzyme, we get it from E. coli RY30. You know that it is a restriction enzyme, so it will cut the DNA at a specific site, which is known as which site? What was that word we had
Ori
used for
site.
Malayalam? It cuts at Ori site, and the sequence is a palindromic sequence. And after cutting, it produces which ends?
Sticky ends.
And now so basically the function of restriction endonucleases is to cut the DNA at palindromic sequences. And they're also asking you the function of ligase. Ligase does what? Joining of which ends?
Sticky ends. Sticky ends.
So when sticky ends join, rDNA is formed. So there we had a question on the technique of rDNA technology. And here we have the role of enzymes in rDNA technology. 2 enzymes they have asked you about. Restriction endonucleases and ligases. Who is doing the cutting work?
Endonuclease.
And who is going to do the joining work?
Ligase.
So in both the sets, we had a question from rDNA technology. We had a question from cryopreservation. Okay. This also question I have done in biotechnology. Why DNA cannot pass through the cell membrane? How can the bacteria be made competent? If you remember, I did competent host. That topic which we took. Okay. Let us do this. DNA is a hydrophilic molecule. So obviously it cannot pass through the cell membrane. So what do? We make the host competent by treating it with some divalent cation such as calcium. Do you remember we had done this? This calcium, it
ma'am.
makes, this calcium will make pores in the walls of the cell wall, and then this DNA can enter. Those who are not present for this class, for them a quick revision. What is the nature of DNA molecule? Hydrophilic or hydrophobic?
Hydrophilic.
Hydrophilic.
That is the reason they cannot pass through cell membrane. So we have to make them competent enough. So we treat them with divalent cations such as
Calcium.
Calcium.
this calcium. Obviously, it will increase the efficiency of DNA to enter by making what? Making pores in the cell wall. Procedure was the same. We had done this. Our DNA is forced into the bacterial host cells by incubating them on the ice. You remember this process? What was this technique called? Heat shock method. You remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. It is written heat stock. It is not heat stock. It is heat shock method. First, we put them at 42 degrees Celsius, then again ice, then again we heat them. This method was known as which method?
Heat
Heat
shock.
shock method.
I had also discussed another method with you, which was known as the gene gun method or the biolistic method. We insert the DNA into the host cell. We bombard them with a high velocity microparticles of gold or tungsten, which are coated with what?
DNA.
DNA. So what are the two techniques we have used to make the host competent? First is the heat shock treatment method and second is the gene gun method. How can you make a host competent enough so that it can enter the DNA can enter? The first method is
Heat shock method.
heat shock method. First we put in ice, then we heat it to 42 degree, then back again to ice. This is known as heat shock method. In gene gun method, we introduce a foreign DNA. We bombard it with a high velocity particles of which two metals?
Gold or tungsten.
Gold and tungsten. The vector which is used in this is called Agrobacterium tumefaciens. What is it called?
Agrobacterium tumefaciens.
Beta, if you see, you will find that there are so many questions which we are getting from biotechnology. In the first section also, the first two questions we got from biotechnology. Let us see how many questions we've already done in biotechnology. First section, we had two questions. Question number 20 is again from biotechnology. This question that we had over here. Yeah, this one only. Question number 20 is from biotechnology. Question number 21 is again from biotechnology. So 3 marks, 2 questions, and 1 mark, 2 questions we have already got. 8 marks we have already covered. See this. This is again from biotechnology. Can you see this question? Again, a 3-marker question from biotechnology. I have already done this with you. This is which vector?
PBR 322.
PBR.
Yes, PBR 322. There were 4 things inside it. They're just asking you the names of this. Ampicillin resistant gene. Remember? What all 4 things were there inside? Ampicillin resistant gene. Obviously, it makes this vector resistant to antibiotics. B was ORI. What is the full form of ORI?
Origin of replication.
Orange.
Yes, yes. ROP was the C. C is your ROP. Okay, protein involved. And D was the tetracycline resistant gene. So basically, we have 4 genes, 4 things inside this vector. What is A, children?
Ampicillin.
Ampicillin resistant.
Yes. What was B?
Ori.
ORI.
Parasite.
What? Very good. What is C?
Protein for replication.
Yes, protein for replication, which is generally called as ROP in short. And what was D?
Tetracycline resistant gene.
genes. So how many resistant genes are there inside PBR 322? Which two antibiotics? Tell me.
Ampicillin and tetracycline.
Yes, please remember it is ampicillin and tetracycline. So see, you will get to know what kind of questions are coming. We had discussed about this vector. So these are the sites. Another 3-mark question we have taken. This is again from biotechnology. See, there is a choice here. This course chapter also I have discussed. You must have seen we had the same type of question there also. Many people are apprehensive of accepting GM crops. So how will you convince these people that they should use GM crops? Means you have to tell them the advantages of GM crops. We had done this yesterday. GM crops are more tolerant to abiotic streak, they are pest resistant, post-harvest losses are less. Like we talked about flower sour tomato, which has a long shelf life. And the nutrition value is more, where we talked about golden rice. Children, why I want you to see this answer is you should know how to express your answers. For example, they are talking about shelf life, then they are given the example of which GMO?
Flower sour tomato.
Flower sour tomato. This is how you make your answers impressive. And when they're talking about enhanced nutritional value of food, then which example has been given?
Golden rice.
Golden rice.
Golden rice.
What special characteristic of BT cotton did we discuss when we discussed the paper yesterday?
High tolerance to abiotic stress conditions.
Very good. So don't you think I could have put it here also? I could have given the example here. Of which example could I take?
BT cotton.
BT cotton. See, what I'm trying to tell you is whatever knowledge you have, how to use it when you're writing your answers. They're asking you advantages of GM crops. We have already done. So when you write this point, first one, you can give example of BT cotton. Here, when you're talking about shelf life, we are going to talk about which GMO? Yes. And enhanced nutrition value, it is going to be?
Golden rice.
Golden rice. So this question is also repeated. Which one of the two in situ or ex situ biodiversity conservation measures help a larger number of species to survive? In that paper also, there was a question on in situ and ex situ. Here also we have a question on in situ and ex situ. This is only 1 year paper that I'm discussing, 2019. When we discuss 10 years, you will be amazed to see that 70-75%, the topics are the same only. Chalo, let's do this. Which one helps to save more species, in situ or ex situ? Ex situ helps to save large number of species because we can take the plant breeds, gametes, preserve them in the gardens, botanical gardens, storing seeds. The rare plants, if we take them under our care, then we can grow them better, in a better way. We can improve those varieties also. You can also mention about cryopreservation in this. Okay. In ex situ, we can use which technique?
Cryopreservation.
So which technique helps save a larger number of species, ex situ or in situ?
Ex situ.
Ex situ.
Supposing there is one very, very rare plant in the forest, and I go to the forest every day and try to save that plant should grow, it should save, that is in situ conservation. I am not changing its original place. But if I know this is the only plant left, I cannot leave it in the forest because when I come back, maybe some animal eats away or some natural calamity gets damaged. So what is the better thing I should do? I should go for ex situ conservation. I should bring the gametes or the seeds of the plant and conserve them in seed banks by cryopreservation so that even if the plant is damaged, it does not become extinct. We still have seeds or gametes so that we can have more plants. So which one can save more species better, in situ or ex situ?
Ex situ.
Yes, ex situ can save more number of species. That is always suggested that ex situ is a better technique. Okay, let's go to section D now. This is from reproduction. First chapter, this you have not done. Let's see the next questions. This is section D. Obviously, you'll have long answers. This is again the menstrual cycle. We have not done this. Transcription, translation, we have not done. This we have not done. Codons, I'm going to take up this chapter only from tomorrow. This we have not done. Here you remember there was a question on succession in that paper. Which succession was it?
Hydro.
Yes, very good. It was a question on hydrarch succession. You can see that in this paper also we have a question on succession. So from each chapter, you will feel very confident after discussing papers that these are the topics from which 100% we expect to get a question. We had discussed about pioneer species, climax species, and hydrarch succession yesterday. Okay, what is ecological succession? They're asking for your definition. Then a continuous change, this we had done. Stage of climax is also achieved in the process of succession. Succession is of two types. We had discussed this, primary and secondary. Why I'm showing you the answers is you should know how to write answers. See, the question was, what is ecological succession? So much has been written. Definition. And also in one line, we have told that it is of two types, primary and
Secondary.
Second.
so two things they have added on their own. Two types of successions and three patterns of succession. Xeroc, hydrarch, and Mizarch. Three successions we had done. Very dry, water, and medium. Second question says similarity and one difference between hydrarch and Xeroc succession. Let's have it. Similarities, both of them lead to climax community of trees. Whether it is hydrarch succession or it is a Xeroc succession, the climax community is always what?
Trees.
Trees. Let's have a difference between hydrarch and Xeroc. Lichens and mosses, they are pioneers. We did this. And here we had phytoplanktons as a pioneer community. You remember we did this, phytoplanktons?
Yes, ma'am.
Better you use phytoplanktons here, lichens and mosses. Pioneer community, the community which grows first. Soil is formed by the action of lichens only. Here, water bodies, the soil is already made by the process of silting. Here, there is deficiency of water. The most common example between an hydrarch and Xeroc is very simple. In Xeroc, there is deficiency of water, and in hydrarch, water is abundant. Okay, they just asked you about one difference, but we have mentioned about three differences, which you will not do in exams. Write two, they've asked you one difference, write only one difference. In answers why three differences are written, I already discussed with you. If you will learn three, you will remember two, and then you'll be able to write one. There is a lot of pressure, the name of board examination, new people around you, new invigilators, new classrooms. So obviously, if you're going to learn three, you'll remember two only. So if you learn one only, if you go according to the question, only one difference is asked, let me learn one, please don't do this. There you may forget. So what is that you have understood, children? We generally have a question from what topic?
Ecological succession.
Very good. See this question. This was also there in that paper. Mechanism of co-evolution in orchids and bees. The other word for co-evolution in that paper was mutualism. You remember? What was the other name we had for this word? Mutualism. I had discussed two examples of mutualism. Let me take it again with you. You've already done this. Fig trees. Fig trees and what was the relationship?
Female best.
Yes. And we did how they get benefited. Fig tree gets the purpose of pollination salt. And what is the advantage for the wasp?
Site
Yes.
for
Beta, egg, the female wasp can lay its egg safely over there. There is one more evolution. Let me discuss this. This is called sexual deceit. Ophrys flower. This is a flower. It looks like a female bee. Name the flower which looks like a female bee.
a fire.
Yes. So the male bee feels that this is a female bee and it dusts its pollen there. So this is a technique of pollination adopted by plants. This is also called sexual deceit. Deceit means dhoka. So it's a deceit because this is a flower. It is not a female bee. But this is co-evolution. Co-evolution means if one species becomes extinct, the other will also become extinct. If there are no fig trees, will female wasp survive?
No, ma'am.
Why the female wasp cannot survive if there are no fig trees?
Then there will be no site for laying eggs
Very good.
and for
Can you think
nutrition of
about,
larvae.
very good, very good. Can you think about the difference of mutualism and co-evolution? Mutualism, co-evolution and mutualism are almost similar, but there's a minor, very slight difference between both of them. What is it? Think about it. Very, very simple difference. Mutualism and co-evolution. See, beta, I'll tell you, there's a slight difference. In mutualism, both the species help each other, they benefit each other. Okay, but one species can survive without the presence of the other species. They're just helping each other, like symbiotic relationship you must have studied about.
Yes, ma'am.
So something
Yes,
like that. That is mutualism, like symbiosis, helping each other. But ऐसा नहीं है that if one species is not there, the other one will not be able to survive only. It is not so. Roots of leguminous plants, rhizobium, all these are mutualism. But co-evolution is if one is not there, the other species will also not be able to survive. So very quickly, 2 examples of co-evolution. We had done one more yesterday. Does someone remember?
Moth and the yucca plant.
Yes, very good. So you remember that. Okay. See again a question from ecosystem. Any 2 ways biodiversity loss, plant production is decreasing, the plants are not resistant to environment, causes of the loss of biodiversity. First is habitat fragmentation. We are spoiling the habitat of plants and animals. Species are getting divided into smaller populations. Migratory birds lose their seasonal habitats. Sometimes the migratory birds come from another country. Let's talk about India only. There's a forest, they come there and they go back. Next year when they come, that forest is not there only. Because of deforestation, it does not exist only. So they're losing their seasonal habitats. So what will happen, beta? They will not be able to survive. And it makes the species more vulnerable to predators as well as wind and fire. Vulnerable means easily accessible. Why do we have a loss of biodiversity? There are a large number of animals, elephants, lions, bears. They require big territories to move around. A lion cannot live in a small area. Even tigers and elephants, what kind of a space they need? Large areas. Likewise, there are birds. They can only reproduce in deep forest. So if we do not have these things, habitat, they'll not survive. Another reason why biodiversity loss is there is exotic species. We have got some foreign species. And these foreign species have dominated the Indian biodiversity. This is the example we had done, water hyacinth. You remember? What was the other name for this?
Yes, ma'am.
What was it called? Because it is very common in Bengal. So what did we call it as?
Terror of Bengal.
Terror of
Very good.
Bengal.
Yes, we bought it from another country because it was very beautiful to see. But now we have a problem here. Why water hyacinth? It clogs the rivers. So many aquatic species die.